This week, the culmination of Burnside's battle. Let's skip all pretense of another thing. It's time for the Battle of Fredericksburg. After securing the town on the 11th, Major General Ambrose P. Burnside moved his men over to the town on the 12th, preparing for battle later in the day. That was delayed to the 13th. The commander of the Army of the Potomac wants Major General William B. Franklin in the South to launch an attack, to break through Lieutenant General Thomas Stonewall Jackson's position in the South and roll up the rebel line to the north. Burnside wants Major General Edwin Sumner to connect his left flank to Franklin, go as far right as he can, and attack along Plank and Telegraph Road to seize Mayor's Heights. He also gives Sumner a watchword to ensure friendly fire isn't had: Scott. He also asks for Sumner to not move until he's given a specific command by Burnside. The Confederates are sitting well in their defensive positions, with Stonewall on the south from Military Road to Prospect Hill, Major General Pickett forming the middle, and Lieutenant General Longstreet's men formed up the north on Mayor's Heights. Full General Lee is with Longstreet and is cautious when he sees the Federals form up. He says,
"They will break your lines, I am afraid. General, if you put every man on the other side of the Potomac on that field to approach me over the same line and give me plenty of ammunition, I will kill them all before they reach my line. Look, right, you are in some danger there, but not on my line."
On the morning of the 13th, the fog was thicker than stone. No one could see more than their nose in front of them. It came before sunlight and blocked out the star. Sound was muffled by the morning dew. In this weather, one could move a mountain in secret. At 5 in the morning, movement began. By 8 in the morning, all was ready. The rebels likewise were also ready. They stood on Mayor's Heights, and their forwardmost men of Brigadier General Thomas Cobb's Georgians were behind a stone wall. And behind them, Brigadier General John R. Cook. Behind them, more brigades and divisions of infantry ready to pour down sheets of musketry. And behind them, cannons ready to shake the world with their fire. The Confederacy was ready to make the Rappahannock red with blood and make the battlefield a plain of hell. Sumner has 6 divisions ready to pound Mayor's Heights into submission, break through the center line, and then expand. But he doesn't move first. Major General Franklin does. 8:30 in the morning, the left Grand Division gets into attack formation. Major General George G. Meade's 3rd Division, 1st Corps, forms column. He moves forward with Brigadier General John Gibbon's 2nd Division, 1st Corps on his right, and Brigadier General Abner Doubleday's 1st Division, 1st Corps to his left. At 9, Burnside learns from Franklin. Franklin is a famously cautious commander, but these reports are no exaggeration. When Meade moved towards Hamilton Crossing, skirmishers laid fire into his column, and Jackson's heavy guns roared to life with Major General Jeb Stuart's battery in support. General Stuart's head of artillery, Major John Pelham, asks for and receives permission to move up a battery of 2 cannons and dismounted rifles further to surprise the Federals. Meade's Pennsylvanians are hit in their broadside by a barrage from Pelham. The boys in blue advance quickly to seize those cannons, but they aren't there. Pelham is with the cavalry. His cannons are doing a hit-and-run operation. After a while, the Union gets lucky, taking one of the cannons out of commission, while the other one continues to harass them. Meade continues to advance forward, but the main Confederate artillery has fallen silent. The fog is starting to clear. The day is getting better. The 1st Corps artillery unlimbers and starts firing shells into the Confederate canopy of trees. At 11, Franklin sends the report to Burnside.
Meade advanced half a mile and holds on. Infantry of enemy in woods in front of extreme left, also in front of Howe. No loss so far of great importance. General Vinton badly but not dangerously wounded. Reynolds has been forced to develop his whole line. Attack of some force of enemy troops on our left seems probable, as far as now can be judged. Stoneman has been directed to cross 1 division to support our left. Reports of cavalry pickets from the other side of the river that enemy troops were moving down the river on this side during the latter part of the night. Howe's pickets have reported movements in their front, same direction. Still, they have a strong force well posted, with batteries there.
As the time nears 1200 hours, General Meade and General Gibbon have their divisions near a couple of houses just 800 yards away from the enemy. When the entirety of Confederate artillery, before the 2 divisions, opens in a thunderous fire, these cannon shots rip down rows of Union infantry, slowing the advance. The Union artillery moves to conduct counter-battery fire and allow the assault to continue. The sounds of battle are also heard further north. Sumner's assault has begun. Major General William H. French's 3rd Division, 2nd Corps, is going to be the first to strike General Cobb's Georgians and the 24th North Carolina. Major General Hancock's 1st Division, 2nd Corps, would follow up. Major General Oliver H. Howard's 2nd Division, 2nd Corps was on his right. Brigadier General Getty's 3rd Division, 9th Corps, and Brigadier General Sturgis's 2nd Division, 9th Corps on his left. General French has Brigadier General Nathan Kimball's brigade up first to punch the hole, Colonel Andrews' brigade to expand it, and lastly Colonel Palmer's brigade to clean up, as it were. General Cobb's men wait, hiding behind their stone wall. Behind them, barely visible, is 9 cannons of the Washington, Louisiana artillery. General Cook's men are right there with them. They hear the marching, the sounds of thousands upon thousands of footsteps. The march vibrates through the field they share. 400 yards, 300 yards, 200 yards, a yell is heard. En masse, they stand up and fire to the Federals' front. The Confederate officer remarks that surely the Union must have expected Cobb to fall back under just the weight of numbers. Cobb says to him,
"If they wait for me to fall back, they will wait a long time."
Kimball's men continue to march forward just on the knife's edge of breaking, when a loud volley is heard, striking into the brigade. Colonel Andrews' brigade moves in front and continues the march, but as the two brigades try to switch position, they are hit by a wall of lead. Colonel Palmer tries to move past the disorganized slosh of comrades before him. His brigade is hit by a wall of lead also. All three brigades are in a mess. They try to reform and move, fire, but the collected Confederates continue to drive them back with their volleys. They are forced to leave their comrades, wounded or dead, on the battlefield.
At 12 p.m., I received orders to attack, and the movement at once commanded. The high-speed carried were about 3/4 of a mile outside of the town, crowned by batteries with rifle pits and walls beneath, forming a continuous line of defense. The skirmishers debouched from the town rapidly, deploying as soon as they crossed the bridge of the canal at the railroad depot. A heavy infantry and artillery fire was opened upon the line, which, however, spreads out over the plain. Kimball's brigade, moving by the left flank, followed immediately by Colonel J.W. Andrews, followed by Colonel Palmer. The column of attack was now complete, the head of which had not arrived in front of the enemy rifle pits at short musket range. The skirmishers, having driven the enemy to cover, were met with a terrible fire on the fronts and flanks, and compelled to lie down, slightly protected by the undulations of the plain. The brigades, shattered by the fire to which they were exposed, filled up the serried lines of the 1st Brigade and poured their fire into every part where the enemy appeared. Still, these heads of the columns rushed on up to the very walls, melting away before superior numbers and strong positions. My troops now covered themselves to the right and left to the front of attack, opening a crossfire upon it, which such execution as to slacken its fire. Hancock's division, following mine in order, and counting against the same difficulties, steadily came up, and my request he reinforced the part of my line of skirmishers which was holding the houses to the right and farthest to the front.
French lost over 1,000 men killed, wounded, or missing. There was no expectation for French to break the enemy line, but the fact that his division took volley after volley, unable to even dent their opposition, is a sad state of affairs. The only thing French did was seriously strike the Confederate command structure. General Thomas R. Cobb was mortally wounded by a shell and has died. General Cooke was wounded. General Crenshaw is now in control of the Confederate stone wall. Going up against him is General Hancock of the Union. But first, let's see how Franklin is doing. By 1, just as French's assault was coming to an end, Meade's and Gibbon's assault begins. The Confederates' artillery wavered. Meade's Pennsylvanians overtook a railroad embankment. Gibbon stays back. General Meade is moving towards General Gregg, Archer, and Lane's Confederate brigades. Pelham's moving artillery is still firing, but the Union artillery directed under Major General John F. Reynolds lays down a barrage on the Confederates, stopping their coordinated rifle fire, allowing Meade's brigades to get into the battle.
"13:15 Franklin to Burnside. Heavy engagement of infantry. Enemy in force where battery is. Meade is assaulting the hill. Will report in a few minutes again. 13:25. Meade is in the woods in his front. Seems to be able to hold on. Reynolds will push Gibbon in, if necessary. The battery in woods referred to must be near Hamilton's house. The victory fires prolonged and quite heavy. Things look well enough. Men in fine spirits.
By 1330 hours, General Stonewall Jackson is realizing that the enemy before him are doing far better than they should. He gives the order to Brigadier General Taillefer to take his division and dislodge Meade from the railroad. Behind Meade's division is still General Gibbons, who moves to the Union's flank to repulse any would-be assault by General Taillefer. When it happens, and stopping the potential isolation of the Pennsylvania brigades when it happens. This shocks the Confederates. Some units move back, and to solidify these gains, the forgotten division of General Abner Doubleday moves forward to cover a flanking attack from the Confederates' left. Brigadier General John Newton's 3rd Division, 6th Corps, begins moving south, ready to reinforce the frontal assault, leaving behind the rest of Major General William F. Smith's 6th Corps to guard the bridges. General Meade has developed his full line. His 3 brigades are arranged in battle, no reserves, just their battle lines and a skirmishing line before them. His artillery protects his rear, being positioned on an open knoll, ready to lay down supporting fire, which are, of course, aided by Doubleday's cannons. These men watch as Taillefer's skirmishers open fire into them.
Meade, having carried a portion of the enemy's position in the woods, we have 300 prisoners. Enemy's battery on extreme left retired. Tough work. Men fight well. Gibbon has advanced to Meade's right. Men fight well, driving the enemy. Meade has suffered severely. Doubleday to Meade's left, not engaged.
Despite this fire, Meade has been pushing so far forward that he has broken the enemy's line. Wayne crumbled. Archer disintegrated. Gregg put to the rout. Union forces move uphill and crash into the reforming men of General Maxcy Gregg again. His men charge in and expand, finally punching a major hole in the Confederate position, striking on the flanks of the already battered flanks of Lane and Archer, an exploit of what they've done.
The 1st Brigade advanced several hundred yards over cleared ground, driving the enemy skirmishers before them, till they reached the woods, front of the railroad, which they entered, driving the enemy out of them, the temporary defenses, west of the railroad. The brigade drove them up the heights in their front, though, owing to a heavy fire being received on their right flank, they obliqued to that side, but continued forcing the enemy back till they had crossed the crest of the hill, crossed a main road which runs along the crest, and reached open ground on the other side, where they were assailed by severe fire from a large force in their front. At the same time, the enemy opened a battery which completely enfiladed them from the right flank.
A lot of Meade's success that he is now exploiting comes from General Maxcy Gregg's belief that the Union infantry were reforming Confederates, the skirmishing line coming back. He pays for this mistake with his life, as a Union sharpshooter takes a look at him and opens with a musket. He falls down mortally wounded, and his brigade withdraws in chaos. Colonel Hoke prepares his men to charge Meade's overextended push, and then he gives the order. They begin to march forward, letting out a rebel yell.
I have never since I was born heard so fearful a noise as a rebel yell. It is nothing like a hurrah, but rather a regular wildcat screech.
Meade's men begin to fall back and reform near the railroad, but soon Taillefer and General Jubal Early send their divisions into the charge, crashing into the Union, leaving the Pennsylvanians to fight via the bayonet. The call goes out for reinforcements, as General Meade desperately tries to get new regiments to push with. Lieutenant General Jackson starts putting in more men, filling his gap. The Union is leaving it. Gibbon doesn't move to reinforce him. Meade sends word to Franklin, asking for those 20,000 reserves to just lend him a couple brigades. His men have been pushed from the woods, and he is low on ammunition. As Jackson's front stands on a knife's edge, Longstreet's front is awaiting the second assault. Major General Winfield S. Hancock has prepared his division. He has Colonel Samuel Zook's brigade up front, the Irish Brigade under Brigadier General Thomas F. Meagher right behind, and Brigadier General Caldwell's brigade in the very back. French's division can offer no aid, as they are trying to reform right now in a depression. He will be marching alone. Cook's men are ordered behind Cobb's to form a thicker line to repulse any bayonet-based assault. General Ransom brings in his men to form a third line. With so many men concentrated, the Confederates can move their brigades in and out, allowing for a near continuous rate of fire.
Colonel Zook's brigade was the first in order. As soon as it had formed line, it advanced to the attack with spirit, passing the point at which the preceding troops had arrived. and being joined as it passed by the brave regiments of Kimball's brigades and some other regiments of French's division. It failed to take the stone wall. Although our dead were left within 25 paces of it, these troops still held their line of battle in front of the enemy and within close musketry range.
With the 1st Brigade in line already down, it was up to the Irish Brigade to keep up the pressure. They advanced in their overcoats, but have dropped all gear that can slow them down. They are pounded by artillery as they advance quickly, in order to show the Confederates who they are. Meade orders the banner of the 28th Massachusetts to be placed dead center, and has his officers put sprigs of boxwood in their kepis. Many of Cobb's Georgians are of Irish descent, but their shared origin doesn't stop them from holding their ground. Meagher's men form a column with 2 regiments in the front and 2 in the back. They then leave their dip, their cover, and move into the murderous open ground before the enemy rifle pits. They advance at a double quick before spreading out into a giant line. Their muskets primed for firing and their lines organized. They reach the wooden fence before them, and then Cobb's men rise and fire volley just 150 yards away. This sends the Irishman's line reeling, only to be hit in the front by a canister shot. Meagher continues his advance. When he is just 75 yards away, another line of lead comes down, cutting down companies at a time. Union infantry have to climb over their fallen comrades to close the distance. But even as they march forward under the hailstorm of fire, they can't seem to reach the stone wall. 3 of the regimental commanders of the brigade are wounded, and of those 3, 2 of their replacements are wounded. The brigade had 1,200 going into the battle. They suffered 545 wounded, missing, or killed. That was just Caldwell's brigade, and it didn't fare much better.
Caldwell's brigade was next ordered into action, and, although it behaved with the utmost valor, failed to carry the enemy's positions. All the troops then formed one line of battle, extending from a point to the right of Hanover Street, in a line nearly parallel to the enemy, with the left thrown back. The extreme left extending about the front of the 2 regiments to the left of the railroad culvert.
Hancock's force moves back into the depression with French's men, while a few remnants stay on the battlefield. They got within 50 yards, but it's not enough. This is a clear sign things are going terribly. These assaults aren't supposed to carry the day, but they should at least pierce the stone wall. So far, 2 divisions has gone up against the equivalency of 3 brigades and have been repulsed without even reaching the enemy. It's an embarrassment. They're being thrown time and time again onto a field of battle where they might as well be sitting ducks. Up next for the killing fields are 2 divisions this time. Major General Oliver Howard's 2nd Division 2nd Corps and Brigadier General Samuel Sturgis's 2nd Division 9th Corps. Sturgis is supposed to attack from the front and pin down the rebels, as Howard's men attack from an angle, striking at the flanks. It turns into a horrible mess. Big surprise. Howard's advance brigade of Colonel Joshua Owen becomes disorganized, trying to rush to Hancock's and French's aid, requiring Colonel Norman J. Hall's brigade to move into the slaughter, where he's quickly cut down by enfilading fire. The final of the brigades commits 2 regiments to save the men of Hall's brigade, who likewise are shot to pieces. Their flanks were decimated by cannon and rifle fire and were unable to even return volleys. Sturgis's men are cut down in lines, desperately trying to advance over their dead and dying comrades, making it to that damned stone wall, which has become a near impossible quest, with the only salvation being the 3 brigades that oppose them are running low on ammunition. 4 divisions lay broken on the battlefield. Major General Joseph Hooker has watched the carnage and bloodshed and isn't ready for his grand division to be made mincemeat for Burnside's amusement. He rides to Major General Ambrose Burnside's tent and finds the commander. Hooker begs him to call off the attack. Burnside isn't persuaded. Generals Griffin, Sykes, and Humphreys will assault that stone wall. Hooker resigns himself to the fact he will give the order and rides back to inform his commanders of their fate. The Confederates use this lull of battle to reinforce the front of their line. Major General George Pickett's division reinforces Mayor's Heights, as does one of Major General John Bell Hood's brigades. Major General Daniel Butterfield gives the order to Brigadier General Charles Griffin's 1st Division, 5th Corps. Support Sturgis's assault. He marches out there in the open, no other men to flank the enemy, no tricky movements. First Colonel Barnes' brigades, then Colonel Schweitzer, and last Colonel Stockton's. Frontal charge, and frontal charge.
Our troops advanced exposed to a severe enfilading fire from both directions, and from a direct fire of artillery and musketry in front. Our lines moved up to within a few yards of the enemy's infantry, who were protected behind stone walls and in trenches. When the fire became so galling that they were compelled to fall back behind the crest of a knoll.
66 killed, 752 wounded is what he gave as casualties. The 4th assault has failed. Though there was movement in the enemy line, they must be falling back, must be retreating. It couldn't just be resupplying or movement of men. Brigadier General Humphrey's 3rd Division, 5th Corps, is ordered to capitalize on this victory. He charges in, trying to avoid the corpses, but he faces an enemy now 6 ranks deep. And volley after volley after volley sends his men back. Big surprise! Major General Sykes' 2nd Division, 5th Corps, is sent in to help Humphreys, but are immediately pinned down under cannon musket fire. For General Getty's 3rd Division, 9th Corps is the last hope. It's nearing nighttime. They move further than those before them. Not a single shot being heard. And when they reach 50 yards of the enemy, a volley is had. And their ranks are pushed back. Cannons open up, and more volleys come in. Any attempt to reform is broken apart, requiring more time to reform, allowing more fire to be had. And that's Mayor's Heights, for the 13th at least. 6,000 to 8,000 casualties for Burnside, 1,200 for Lee. But what about Franklin? He was supposed to roll up the enemy line. He had passed on the message to Burnside for reinforcements, right? Meade punched the hole. Why wasn't it fully exploited?
1415. Gibbon and Meade driven back from the woods. Newton gone forward. Jackson's corps of the enemy attacks on the left. General Gibbon slightly wounded. General Bayard mortally wounded by a shell. Things do not look well on Reynolds' front. Still, we'll have new troops in soon.
Meade is alone and desperately trying to fight for the woods. He is low on ammunition when Brigadier General Birney and Brigadier General John Gibbon advance to support him. He has to withdraw his men, as does Gibbon.
1425. Dispatch received. Franklin will do his best. New troops gone in. We'll report soon again.
This gives Jackson a giant opportunity. Colonel Atkinson, commanding a Georgia brigade, tries to take advantage of the situation and charge the Pennsylvania division. Birney's men unleash a volley into the charging Confederates, and artillery forces them back. But it's still exposed. Maybe the next charge will break them. The Union is exposed and the Confederates tired, but Jackson still has his reserves, ready to strike Meade, Gibbon, and Birney. When a marching is heard, everyone looks to the heavens as he arrives. Men from Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York. 3 brigades under Brigadier General Joseph Carr, Colonel George B. Hall, and Brigadier General Joseph W. Revere. All look to one man, who places himself on Meade's right, ready to protect the whole of the Union's southern flank, Major General Daniel Edgar Sickles. The Confederates won't charge against a fresh, strong, and perfectly led division. They try to goad Sickles into a charge by firing artillery into his lines. For a tactical genius like him, the solution is to easily move out of range and counter battery fire. General Jackson has no way to defeat our hero. Franklin suffered 5,000 casualties to Jackson's 3,400. Not as bad as those assaults north at Mayor's Heights, but though that could have been achieved if Meade had been reinforced, a depressing number, especially with nothing to show for the sacrifice. Union command moves back to the command tent. Burnside suggests one final assault on Mayor's Heights, led by him using his reserves. His supporters are silenced by the idea it's suicide. Perhaps that's what Burnside wants. He feels deep sorrow for the failure. The battle was men being thrown against Confederate positions. Maybe his presence in the charge would inspire the men like Will Mack did, or maybe it was a way to atone. He doesn't go forward on the 13th. The battle can continue on the 14th. The 14th, Burnside rises, ready to charge Mayor's Heights with his 9th Corps. The other commanders have had a night's rest to overcome the shock of his suggestion. Pure stupidity! 6 assaults couldn't break the enemy. Why would this one? There was much bravery at Fredericksburg, most famously Sergeant Richard Kirkland. But this is week by week. We care about the broad strategy, the big players, none of this individual heroism. A video about him will come out over winter break. The night of the 14th, the Army of the Potomac slips away. An aurora borealis fills the sky, but the beaten Burnside is marching north. He lost 1,160 killed, of which 124 were officers, 8,964 wounded, of which 654 were officers, and 1,749 missing, of which 20 were officers, for a total of 12,653 casualties, or 1/10 of the Army of the Potomac. We suffered 458 killed, 3,743 wounded, 653 missing, for 4,854 casualties. As news travels, the Confederacy is elated. Northern papers want Burnside hung and Lincoln guillotined. Senator Zachariah Chandler, a radical Republican from Michigan, said,
"The president is a weak man, too weak for the occasion, and those four traitor generals are wasting time and yet more precious blood in indecisive battles and delays."
Lee himself disagrees.
At Fredericksburg, we gained a battle, inflicting very severe losses on the enemy in men and material. Our people were greatly elated. I was much depressed. We had really accomplished nothing. We had not gained a foot of ground, and I knew the enemy could easily replace the men he had lost. The loss of material was, if anything, rather beneficial to him, as it gave an opportunity to contractors to make money.
Major General Ambrose Burnside, in his report to Halleck, blames the late pontoon bridges for the failure of the battle. This isn't to dodge blame. He still lays into himself for forcing the engagement. Lincoln responds,
"Although you were not successful, the attempt was not an error, nor the failure other than an accident. The courage you maintained against an entrenched foe and the consummate skill and success with you crossed and recrossed the river in the face of the enemy show that you possess all the qualities of a great army."
the president might have deep respect for his army, but little confidence in its commander. But he has no better choice right now. For a victory at Burnside's, we must look to North Carolina, where action happened this week. I hope you like that transition. Major General John G. Foster took his 10,000 or so man army from New Bern, overpowered 3 Confederate brigades, and successfully burnt down Goldsboro Bridge. Foster suffered 577 casualties, the Confederates 738. Oh, could it get any fudge? Then there is Major General Ulysses S. Grant. And anti-Semitism. He issues an order.
General Orders, Number 11. Headquarters, 13th Army Corps, Department of the Tennessee, Oxford, Mississippi, December 17, 1862. 1. The Jews as a class, violating every regulation of trade established by the Treasury Department and also department orders, are hereby expelled from the department. 2. Within 24 hours from the receipt of this order by post commanders, they will see that all of this class of people be furnished passes and required to leave, and anyone returning after such notification will be arrested and held in confinement until an opportunity occurs of sending them out as prisoners, unless furnished with permit from headquarters. 3. No permits will be given these people to visit headquarters for the purpose of making personal application for trade permits. By order of Major General U.S. Grant, J.N.O. A. Rawlins, Assistant Adjutant General.
He then goes on to explain his reasoning to Assistant Secretary of War Christopher Walcott.
To Christopher P. Walcott, Headquarters, 13th Army Corps, Department of the Tennessee, Oxford, December 17, 1862. Honorary C.P. Walcott, Assistant Secretary of War, Washington, D.C. Sir, I have long since believed that in spite of all the vigilance that can be infused into post commanders, that the special regulations of the Treasury Department have been violated, that mostly by Jews and other unprincipled traitors. So well satisfied of this have I been at this that I instructed the commanding officer at Columbus to refuse all permits to Jews to come south, and frequently have had them expelled from the department. But they come in with their carpet sacks, in spite of all that can be done to prevent it. The Jews seem to be a privileged class that can travel anywhere. They will land at any wood yard or a landing on the river and make their way through the country. If not permitted to buy cotton themselves, they will act as agents for someone else who will be at a military post with a treasury permit to receive cotton and pay for it in treasury notes, which the Jew will buy up at an agreed rate, paying gold. There's but one way that I know of to reach this case. That is for government to buy all the cotton at a fixed rate and send it to Cairo, St. Louis, or some other point to be sold. Then all traitors, they are a curse to the army, might be expelled. I am, sir, very respectfully, your obedient servant, U.S. Grant, Major General.
If I go any further into this insanity, I'll become an alcoholic, so I'll just end the week. This week ends with a disaster. It started out so well. I didn't even have time to cover the fact one of Grant's ironclads, the USS Cairo, sank due to a torpedo, because I was too busy covering him expelling an entire religious group, right after watching Burnside take 3-1 casualties, charge after charge for nothing. At least McClellan had the decency to run away from battles when he could. Burnside just massacred his own men. The army's at low spirits, not that it ever seems to be in high ones. The organization has been wrecked, and now the full winter has arrived. Sickness approaches camps as the cold reaches deadly temperatures. The Union has lost again and again. The only source of hope is Sickles. He has taken center stage in the Union command structure. He is due for a promotion, and after a successful movement to save 3 divisions using his own initiative to leave the reserves, he could not just see himself a major general uniform, but a corps of his own. That's really all the good that can be said, though. The Union has been stalled by weather, beaten back by gunfire, and racked by internal division. The Confederacy is united in victory, and their armies will have a content Christmas. There will be no Trenton in the East, and all we have in the West is a betrayal of American ideals. Goodbye and good luck. I would like to thank you for watching the video, since I assume you didn't just come to the ending for no reason. If you liked the video, please like it. If you want to tell me how much you like it, please comment. And if you want to see more videos to like, please subscribe and watch as I cover this war week by week. You should be seeing on the screen around now a playlist to check out all of 1862, a recommended video, which should be the second Opium War, I believe, and a button to subscribe if the one down is not enough for you. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.